Hello, very sexy people. I am coming to you today because I read an article a couple of days ago by some conservative politician or somebody like that, saying how the universal basic income was immoral and not good. And the comments came in saying, stick it up your arse, you conservative. Universal basic income's the way to go. In other words, I have generally seen nothing but negative comments about universal basic income, except when a conservative politician says it's an immoral idea. So, if conservatives are going to say more about how immoral it is going to get a heck of a boost and make it almost something that might get on a political agenda. But I still think not. And I was reading the comments on this article, and I've forgotten even what the article was about, because people have just taken it in so many different ways, and it just seems to be, I don't know if everyone's got a hangover or something, and they're just very angry at the moment. The United Kingdom, or at least the people that write on these comment sections, are very angry. I imagine they think they're desperate or something. Anyway, I'm just going to read down a few things about the universal basic income and think about it a bit more, because I'm starting to think about it a bit more. So, Tea with Lemon kicks it all off. When people get a wage rise, the rent goes up. The answer is universal income and low cost of living. Now, so many other things above this in the comment section has been seemingly worthy of comment by me in a video here and now, but everyone seems to be so angry and shouty and unthinking that I've just gone, oh, that could be interesting, and then no, it's just so stupid. And this one just seemingly starts stupid. When people get a wage rise, the rent goes up. Now, that's technically true, I think. I'm not going to call bullshit on that. When people get a wage rise, if there's a general wage rise in a town, let's say, the rent goes up. I can imagine it being right, so I'm not going to call bullshit on it. The answer is universal income. I'm going, what? I have no idea where that comes from. And a low cost of living. Does that mean that people should never get wage rises, so the rent never goes up? I don't know, but it kicks us off. So the next couple of people come in and say, ACCA, otherwise known as the USSR, and that worked out well, didn't it? The next guy calls him a commie and says that you should have learnt your lesson in 1989. Somebody comes and says the universal income is on trial in Scotland and elsewhere in the EU, but not in the USSR, because communism is a failure. Now, again, communism, was communism a failure? Or was it having a complete lunatic psychopath as the leader failure? Although the other leaders afterwards they had to fit in with the kind of Stalin system, didn't they? But let's just put communism in the failure bin and leave it there. Anyway, it is, and we watch with interest. Personally, I can't see it working, but an open mind is good. In other words, we can. Some places are having a trial of it, and we'll have a little look, see how it goes. And then somebody comes in and says, then the trials are. They say no, it isn't. They're considering a £250,000 trial, which is peanuts. It's nothing. Which wouldn't even cover the costs of a single street. A handful of places around the world have had tiny little limited trials, all abandoned as unworkable. I don't think that's quite right, but it certainly hasn't been widely trialled. The closest thing to working, Alaska, where the taxes from the oil industry are distributed to residents, kind of similar to what was proposed with the share of revenues from fracking in the UK. Now, we'll leave the fracking in the UK and distributing that aside, but Alaska is kind of an idea, but Alaska is such a... it's an interesting place to live. If you get used to it, I'm sure it can be quite fine. But the Alaska one answers the question, which always will come up very quickly from all sides. Well, where's the money going to come from? Alaska can answer that question: oil revenue. So, although it is an example, it won't ever be an general example. Unless it's in a certain place that has got lots of free money. Somebody says it's incorrect and Finland's trial is ongoing. Fair enough, but all we're doing now is arguing about what trials are going on or not. Universal basic income is a dangerous idea as it makes people 100% reliant on the state. Now, of all the comments, this is kind of the one that made me make this video, because although that sounds like an American sort of comment, it is actually a dangerous idea. Universal basic income is a dangerous idea as it makes people 100% reliant on the state. The whole idea of universal basic income is because the people, due to probably robotics and other technical advances, become incapable of looking after themselves in that sort of new modern world. So, if they can't take care of themselves, then the state will have to take care of them. That's what universal basic income is being pushed for. But yes, it does mean that the people would be 100% reliant on the state and not reliant on themselves. Now, being reliant on the state is probably bad, but it's probably not as bad as not being reliant upon yourself. Because I don't know how the human character, should we do one of these? The human character would go on being 100% reliant on the state, because you can't, in the world that's surrounding you, actually be reliant on yourself. In other words, to go and get a job and bring money home for the family, which is such a traditional way of life for a modern human being. Universal basic income is a huge jump financially, but it's a huge jump mentally for people. It really is. Going on with this fella's comment, he goes on, do you even have an idea how to implement UBI and keep living costs down? This is referring right back to the beginning. If you start giving people free money, you can guarantee there will be people to take all that free money off the people, and if there's enough free money, the prices of things being sold to them, people that get the free money, will go up, etc. That's all part of the very, very difficult financial aspect of universal basic income. Do you favour government stating the costs of goods and services? Now, unfortunately, it's very, and we're going back to the communism. This is why I did this, made the video, because these comments can link together. You can see that if it was the government's job to give people a universal basic income, which was to give them a certain level of life, that they could live in a certain quality of housing and eat a certain quality of eating, let's say, but the prices of the housing and the eating went up, the government would either have to put up the universal basic income, or they would have to try and squash down the prices of the housing and the eating. And this is where this fella's catching on. Do you favour government stating the costs of goods and services? And we are right back to communism and the whole thing that got gridlocked towards the end of communism. Obviously, it doesn't have to be that way, but don't look to economists to be able to tell you how it will work out, because economists aren't very good at looking into the future. Just to round things off, there was one more comment. People are free to work and keep their money, claiming benefit itself is a burden. I'll read it once more to see if I can make sense. People are free to work and keep their money, claiming benefit itself is a burden. Maybe that's the psychological thing I was talking about. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that's the psychological thing. People at least feel good about themselves. They don't feel good about going out to work, but they feel good about themselves having been out to work, got the money and bought shit with it. They think that this is fair. They don't like it, but they can see it as fair. Just claiming benefits on a universal basic income to get housing and food, besides not being fair, you just won't have that self-respect that you do get from going out to work. I'll leave it there. Universal basic income. Almost, I'm not saying it's come to this, but it's come to this, that this is even being considered, which is showing not that there's disaster out there, but there is big change out there, a changing. Thanks. Bye.